In this video, we're going to be comparing the Apple AirPods Pro 2 OTC hearing aid feature against one of our favorite invisible style hearing aids, which is also sold over the counter, the Sony CRE-C20. Now, if you've been following the hearing aid category for long, you might understand why this particular head-to-head is really exciting for me to record. That's because 5 years ago, the idea that both Apple and Sony would have a hearing aid would have sounded preposterous. These were highly medicalized categories with very little attention from leading technology providers like Apple and Sony. But in 2022, the FDA published guidelines that gave Sony and Apple and some other technology giants the comfort to actually join the category and help folks hear their best. So in this video, we're going to dig into Apple AirPods Pro 2 and Sony CRE-C20. If we have not yet met, my name is Blake Cadwell. I'm a hearing aid wearer and also the co-founder at Soundly.com. We're one of the leading destinations for hearing health research, testing, and shopping in the United States. You can head over to the site at any point, test your hearing, compare products, and ultimately purchase products with follow-up care. If you enjoy this video, we would appreciate it if you give it a thumbs up below and subscribe to the channel. It helps us reach more people. With that, let's get into it. Okay, in this video, we're going to dig into everything you need to know about AirPods and Sony CRE-C20. I'm actually wearing Sony CRE-C20 in this year and AirPods Pro 2 in this year. I have them both turned into hearing aid mode. This is not how I recommend most people listen to the outside world, but I'll tell you what I'm hearing, the differences, some things around battery life and form factor, how the whole setup process works. But before we get into all of that, let me give you a little bit of background on how we got here. As I mentioned, all of this really started in 2022 when the FDA put forward guidelines that made a new category of hearing aids possible, over-the-counter hearing aids. Now, over-the-counter hearing aids are only appropriate for those who have mild to moderate hearing loss. If you're not sure what your level of hearing loss is, you can head over to Soundly.com. You can take our free test and it will help you understand your chart. Are you mild, moderate, severe, or profound? We have a full video talking about that hearing test, which I'll link up here. As the name suggests, over-the-counter hearing aids are sold over the counter. That means you do not need to speak to a doctor or go to a doctor's office in order to get the Sony product or, of course, your Apple AirPods. In general, you're going to purchase these products online or in a local retail store. Now, it's very possible that you have a pair of AirPods Pro 2 in your home already. But if you don't, it's important that you purchase the right type of AirPods. There are a few different models, and the AirPods Pro 2 is the only one right now that has this hearing aid feature built in. We will drop a link below to the correct product so you know you're getting the right one. When it comes to Sony CRE-C20, you can purchase that product directly on Soundly.com or at a number of other retailers. Now, if you do purchase Sony hearing aids through Soundly.com, you'll get all of our normal perks, including an audiologist setup call that comes complimentary with any purchase. Okay, so that gives you a sense for how we got here and where you might purchase these products if you decided to move forward with AirPods Pro 2 or Sony CRE-C20. But the purpose of this video is to put them head to head. And the way I want to do that in this video is to give you the best case for each one. So I'll talk to you about why AirPods Pro 2 is an exciting option, some of the things that it really does well. Then I'll talk to you about the Sony CRE-C20 and why that's a great option for certain folks and what it does really well. At the end, I'll help you compare them head to head and make a decision on which might be right for you. So let's start with AirPods Pro 2. AirPods Pro 2 is a product that you might already have in your home. It costs typically around $250. And of course, it comes from Apple, which is a technology giant. That means every little component, from the hinges on the case to the way it connects into your phone, is designed with incredible precision and excellence that you expect from Apple products. If you are an iPhone user, you've almost certainly experienced the connectivity and sort of the magic of Apple products and how well they work together. So it's obviously very exciting that Apple's taken a piece of existing technology and added a software layer that essentially turns it into an over-the-counter hearing aid. So this is how the Apple product works. You take it out of the box, you connect it to your phone. You will need to update your iOS to 18.1 or later. Most people should already be there, but you can double check that in your settings. You'll take an onboard hearing test, which Apple has designed. The hearing test will then program your AirPods Pro 2. And when you put them into transparency mode, either through your phone or by pinching the stem here on the device, then they go into hearing mode and you're hearing the outside world amplified according to your particular hearing loss. Now, I've spent quite a bit of time wearing the Apple AirPods Pro 2 as a hearing aid, both in context, like when I'm traveling and I'm listening to music and I just pinch the stem to talk to the flight attendant, or even at home with my family, like my daughter, my wife, and friends. What I've found is that the sound quality is pretty good. It's definitely better than the lowest priced options that you'll find on the market. If you were to buy a hearing aid for $200, $300 off of Amazon, especially one that sits inside of the ear, you're not going to get better sound quality than what you're getting through the Apple AirPods Pro 2. So they've absolutely won the market below $200 or $300, especially when you're considering an in-ear device. With that said, Apple's clearly doing some things that make this more of a crowd-pleasing product. And what I mean by that is that they do a nice job managing background noise, so it's comfortable in my ears. But I often miss little bits of conversation. I lack a clarity that I expect from a product like Sony CRE-C20 or other prescription products on the market. So they do a great job of getting me maybe 75 or 80% of the way there. But when I'm in a context where I need to be absolutely confident about what I'm hearing, I'm certainly not reaching for my Apple AirPods Pro 2. A couple of other important notes. Now, Apple's AirPods charge very quickly inside the case. So if you take them out of your ear, you drop them in the case, you give them maybe 10 or 15 minutes, you can sometimes get to a 30 or 40 or 50% charge just in that lightning fast charge round. The charger itself also carries a lot of power that you can take with you wherever you want. That said, the devices themselves only last for 4 to 6 hours. So if you're going to be wearing these as full-time hearing aids, you'll almost certainly run out of battery before your day is complete. Now compare that to most hearing aids, which have a 20 or 30 hour battery life on a single charge. When it comes to comfort, there's a good chance you know exactly what Apple AirPods Pro 2 feel like. They feel just like a pair of earbuds in your ear. Most of the devices come with various ear tips, which can make them fairly comfortable, but in general, you feel like you've got earbuds in your ear. Now, the final important note to think about as you consider Apple AirPods Pro 2 as a hearing aid is that these devices look like AirPods, obviously, because they are AirPods. On one hand, that's great because you can wear this device completely incognito. No one will know that you're wearing a hearing aid. But on the other hand, it does look like you're on a phone call or streaming music. When I've worn Apple AirPods Pro 2 in a social context, I found myself explaining why I'm wearing my AirPods and assuring folks that I'm not listening to music or on a phone call and that I'm actually with them and hearing everything that they say. Now, for many folks, a decent quality hearing aid for $250 that also works as a fantastic pair of headphones is worth that trade-off, is worth the explanation. But again, Apple AirPods Pro 2 probably don't entirely replace the notion of an all-day hearing aid. All right, that's a good segue to talk about Sony CRE-C20. This is currently our best-selling in-ear device, and it's the one that our customers from all over the country tend to like the most. So when someone calls in and they ask us for an in-ear or invisible style device, we're often recommending Sony CRE-C20. Now, just like Apple, Sony hearing aids are programmed using a smartphone app. You'll download that app and you'll program the devices to your particular hearing loss. In general, the app setup process is fairly simple, but if you purchase through Soundly.com, you'll also get a complimentary audiologist setup call where you can talk about your own hearing loss or talk about that app setup and make sure you're getting the most out of your devices. Now, a couple of other important things to note before we talk about sound quality, which I am sure is what many people are very interested in as a comparison between these two products. The first is comfort and size. So Sony CRE-C20 hearing aids sit all the way down in the ear. If you look straight down my ear canal, you might see them. They have this little tab, which allows me to pull them out of my ear. But in general, very few people are going to know that I'm wearing this hearing aid. In contrast to Apple's AirPods Pro 2, I don't have to explain myself at all. If someone does see that shadow deep in my ear canal, they'll understand it is a hearing aid and that I'm not wearing headphones. Now, because of the tiny form factor, these Sony hearing aids do not stream Bluetooth. That means you cannot stream phone calls or music directly into your ears using these hearing aids. That's a very clear contrast between AirPods and Sony. AirPods is a fantastic pair of headphones. Sony's not really operating as a pair of headphones at all. And when it comes to comfort, I have a strong preference for Sony CRE-C20 if you're going to be wearing these hearing aids for hours at a time. AirPods are fairly comfortable in my ears when I wear them for maybe an hour or two at a time. But when I wear hearing aids, I'm wearing them for 6, 8, 10 hours in a day. And Sony CRE-C20 is clearly designed for that purpose. It's a good moment to mention that Sony doesn't actually manufacture their own hearing aids. Instead, they partner with a company called WS Audiology, which is one of the largest prescription makers of hearing aids in the world. They lend their brand to the product, but the product that is actually in my ears is the same product that I would expect to get at a local clinic. Now, the reason I bring that up as I'm talking about comfort is that these hearing aid manufacturers who design products to sit inside your ear for 10 or 12 hours a day are really good at making them feel unintrusive. From the way they design the ear tips to the slope of the product and the way it hugs your ear canals, it's all designed to be unintrusive and really comfortable for a long time of wear. So I feel a clear contrast between Sony and Apple's AirPods when it comes to comfort. And we really find the same story when it comes to battery life. Sony CRE-C20 has a 28-hour battery life. That means if you charge up your devices, you pull them out, put them in your ears, they will not die for 28 hours. Of course, compare that to Apple AirPods and it's 4 to 6 hours. The two are clearly designed for different purposes. One for all-day hearing aid wear and the other for situational wear and great music streaming. And finally, I should mention price. Sony hearing aids are typically $999 for a pair. That's significantly more expensive than the $250 that you'll pay for Apple AirPods Pro 2, but it's also a much more specialized piece of technology that's really targeted at folks who are trying to reclaim their ability to hear. All right, so now you understand the basics of these products, how they stack up on some of their core technologies. But your main question is very likely, how do they actually sound? Which product sounds better and which one is going to give me more clarity in the toughest situations? Now, in general, I would give both Apple and Sony really high marks for their ability to manage background noise and bring forward clarity in folks' voices. But there are some very clear differences between these products. Even as I'm wearing one in each ear right now, I can hear a lot more clarity and crispness on the side where I'm wearing Sony CRE-C20, and I hear a lot more roundness and smoothness, but in some cases a little bit more of a muddy sound coming through the AirPods Pro 2. Now, this makes a lot of sense for a few different reasons. The first is that the AirPods Pro 2 occlude my ear entirely, so they have to completely rebuild my audio universe and bring that into my ears. It's a lot harder than bringing in some natural sound coming in through my ear and then some additional boosted sound which comes in through the hearing device. Now, the second reason that I might be sensing a bit more clarity or assertiveness in a Sony product is that these are designed at their core to be hearing aids and to give more clarity and more boost to speech. Now, in some cases, the sound that you hear through a hearing aid, especially right at the beginning when you're getting used to it, is not really a crowd pleaser. It sounds sharper than what you might want. Now, with AirPods, they knew they would put this in the hands of tens of millions of folks who might try out the AirPod feature and probably wanted to create a more well-balanced or even crowd-pleasing sound profile that might be a little bit less assertive. So if your main priority is hearing people clearly in a lot of different contexts, maybe soft talkers, people in a crowd, people in background noise, Sony CRE-C20 is just designed for that job. And it's going to be hard for AirPods, even with all the amazing technology muscle that they have behind them, to truly achieve the same level of clarity that this clinical audiology product can get to. With that said, we talked to a whole range of folks at Soundly.com with all types of priorities. Some folks only have a couple $100s to spend, or they only think they want hearing aids for an hour or two a day, and then they want their open ears the rest of the time. Other folks know that they're missing out on sounds in a lot of different contexts, and they really want to get used to hearing aids that they can wear as a support for their all-day wear. In my situation, that's the case. I wear hearing aids for 10 or 12 hours a day, and it really supports me in all of the different contexts that I'm in. So when we look at these products head to head, who's the best? Who really wins out? Here's how I look at it. Apple AirPods Pro 2 are obviously amazing. They come from Apple. They connect beautifully to my iPhone. I use these products every single day for streaming and taking phone calls. That said, Apple's AirPods are not an all-day hearing aid solution for me. They're not quite as comfortable in the ear. They don't have the battery life that I need. And importantly, they look like AirPods when I'm face-to-face in conversation. Sony, on the other hand, is a little bit more expensive and it does not stream Bluetooth, but it gives me a lot more confidence when I'm actually interacting with folks. And importantly, the devices are invisible in my ear. I don't find myself explaining why I'm wearing AirPods in the middle of conversation. So what's my solution? For me, I have a pair of AirPods Pro 2 that I use regularly for all of my media streaming and my phone calls. Occasionally, I pinch the arm and I turn them into transparency mode, which has been set up to my hearing loss and allows me to interact with people freely when I'm traveling or I'm on the go. Then when I'm with folks in meetings, face-to-face, at home, with family, I wear a pair of traditional hearing aids like Sony CRE-C20. If you're just getting started on your journey and you have a pair of AirPods Pro 2, you should absolutely set them up and see how they sound. If you're trying to decide which of these should you buy, the important decision to make is really how much you think you'll wear the devices and in what contexts. If you're really trying to pull out speech, conversation, and improve your communication with others, in day-to-day contexts, it's very likely that you'll find a pair of hearing aids like Sony CRE-C20, Sennheiser All Day Clear, or something you'd find at a local clinic will give you more confidence and clarity in your daily life. If instead you're just looking for a little boost or a place to start, I look at something like AirPods Pro 2. Even if it isn't your final pair of hearing aids, you'll have a beautiful pair of Apple AirPods that you can connect through iPhone, stream music, and phone calls in the future. I hope this head-to-head comparison has been helpful. If you have questions or comments, feel free to drop them below or head over to soundly.com. You can talk to our team, take our hearing test, or browse all kinds of options when it comes to your hearing health. Thanks for your time and good luck with your research.